Conditions within Myanmar are even worse now than when I last reported to you. The second is that while progress has been made by some member states who have taken steps to address those conditions, as a whole, the international response to this crisis has failed. I have laid out details of the steadily deteriorating conditions in Myanmar in the comprehensive written report that I have provided to each and every one of you. Among those conditions, a humanitarian disaster that continues to worsen. Nearly 22 million people now require humanitarian assistance. 16.7 million people now face acute food insecurity. These conditions were made even worse when on the 28th of March, a massive 7.7 magnitude earthquake struck central Myanmar. The earthquake impacted an estimated 17 million people, damaged over 157,000 homes, and left approximately 200,000 people homeless. The World Bank has estimated that the earthquake caused nearly $11 billion in damage. The junta responded by turning a natural disaster into a humanitarian catastrophe, as it sought to turn the earthquake to its own advantage, including by blocking the delivery of humanitarian aid from reaching many devastated areas, threatening, harassing, interrogating, and extorting humanitarian relief workers, confiscating medical supplies, and looting the homes of families displaced by the earthquake, rounding up young people involved in relief efforts, and forcibly conscripting them into military service or using them as forced labor. And despite declaring a post-earthquake ceasefire, the junta actually increased its attacks on civilians in the weeks immediately following the earthquake. There were more military aircraft and drone strikes on civilian targets in the month following the earthquake than in any other month in the first half of 2025. The second quarter of 2025 saw more airstrikes on civilian targets than any other previous quarter since the coup. According to a survey by the World Food Program, 57% of families in central Rakhine State cannot meet their basic food needs. This marks a dramatic and rapid increase from the 33% that reported similar food challenges in December of last year. For 4 years, the junta has attacked healthcare workers and infrastructure, leading to predictably dire health conditions. In the first 8 months of 2025, there were 169 recorded attacks on the healthcare system, including attacks on medical facilities and the killing, kidnapping, and arrest of healthcare workers. In Rakhine State, the Arakan Army is battling junta forces and Rohingya armed groups, and all parties to the conflict have been accused of grave human rights violations, leaving civilians trapped in a vortex of violence and oppression. Desperate Rohingya families are crossing the border into Bangladesh in large numbers, approximately 150,000 having arrived in refugee camps in Bangladesh in 2024 and 2025. Members of the ethnic Rakhine community have also begun to cross the border to escape violence. But the crisis in Myanmar is not only impacting the people of Myanmar, it is impacting the region and indeed the world. Millions from Myanmar have risked everything to escape, crossing the border to reach Bangladesh, Thailand, Malaysia, and well beyond. The criminality of the junta and its cronies have victimized untold numbers in the region and the world. Victims include young people who have been lured into what they think are high-paying jobs only to find themselves trafficked and imprisoned in Myanmar-based scam centers where they are forced to scam unsuspecting victims throughout the world. Beyond violating the rights of Myanmar citizens at home, the junta has violated the sovereignty of countries in the region. 2 years after a human rights defender, her husband, and children were kidnapped from their home in Malaysia, the junta recently announced the family was in its custody and facing charges. This is outrageous, and it should be unacceptable to every country represented in this body. With respect to the second inescapable effect, the failure of the international community's response to this crisis, I'd like to cite as an example the tragic reversal of support for humanitarian aid in the midst of a worsening humanitarian crisis. Global reductions to humanitarian funding mean that the number of desperate people in Myanmar who were targeted to receive humanitarian aid from the United Nations is being reduced from 6.7 million to 4.8 million, a total that is less than a quarter of the 22 million in need of humanitarian assistance. The World Food Program has been forced to cut food assistance to over 100 million people in Myanmar. These include 100,000 displaced people in central Rakhine State whose only source of food is the World Food Program. Mr. Chairman, distinguished delegates, this is unacceptable. The innocent families being victimized by a brutal regime and a distracted world deserve better. As I have documented in my reports to you, there are actions that have been taken by member states and stakeholders in the private sector that address the root causes of this crisis, actions that deny the junta the three things that it needs to sustain itself and its attacks on civilians: money, weapons, and legitimacy. These actions have shown results and prove that Myanmar's tragic downward trajectory is not inevitable. But just when the people of Myanmar need these types of actions the most, they are becoming the exception. Momentum that could have been created to build sustainable action is being lost. The question before this body and each member state of the United Nations is whether or not the progress that has been made by those who have taken positive actions will be built upon or left behind in history's what could have been file. It is a question that each and every member state must answer. It is a decision that all of you must make. The consequences of that decision could not be greater for the people of Myanmar. Thank you.